Hello. It is so amazing to have you join us again. And it's Carissa here from Before You Renovate. And I am really excited because we're going to talk rental properties today. And I want to give you guys an insight into the best time to renovate, when you should and when you shouldn't, because it's all about learning the most out of your renovation and what to do before you renovate so you can save time, save money, maximize your return on investment. And if it's a rental property, then what are you there renovating it for? What is your purpose? So most landlords I speak to either run it renovating or don't want to do anything to it and just want to get the income and don't want it to outlay. Now I'm going to talk you through the two pros and cons of that. You got the landlord that spends too much money sometimes. Make sure you're strategic. Don't spend more than what you should. Don't keep doing band-aid fixes. Sometimes your property needs a proper transformation. So before you renovate, do your right due diligence. On the other side, I speak to landlords who don't want to spend a cent. Oh, what's the point of me spending any money renovating? I don't want to do that. I don't spend anything on my property. I just want to make income. Now, your property, any property, over time is going to age, is going to have issues, maybe not compliant as regulations change, may have damage, may have repairs, may end up outdated. So to some degree, when you're a landlord and you own property, how are you going to most ensure that your property is functioning at its best? And that means you need to do your right due diligence to know whether you can get more income and whether you can instantly add asset value. And you need to know all of that before you renovate, before you even decide to renovate, before you even decide to change tenant, before you even put a new tenant back in. Before you renovate, do your due diligence. So I'm going to walk you through some of that. Now, some of our previous podcasts, we started talking a little bit about this. So you've got a rental property, okay? You have tenants in there possibly already. Now, first step, do your health check. What's it worth now? What's the rent now? What could it be worth? What could the rent be? Now and potential. Rental and asset value. Now. Rental and asset value potential. Then what's the gap? 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, $5 a week, $50 a week, $100 a week. What is that? This is what you must do before you renovate. Then the next step I want to take you through is when is the right time to renovate? Because I recently spoke to a landlord who said to me, look, I've got tenants in there. I want to do some work, but I'm just going to leave the tenant in. Why would you do that? If you're going to invest money into your rental property, for what purpose? To increase your rental income. So if you've already got a tenant living inside, living in your property, paying you rent, and you want to renovate while they're living there, renovate while the rent's only $500 a week, and then what? Expect your rental income to just all of a sudden overnight increase. Expect your tenant to be okay just to pay $100 more a week. Expect your tenant to be over the moon that you renovated it and be like, yeah, I've got more money to throw around. Or you leave the tenant in there and don't expect any return, any extra income. But then where's your return on investment? So what was the point of you investing if you didn't walk away with more money back in your pocket? This is not a property that you're living in and that you want to make pretty for you. This is an investment property. This is a business transaction. This is all about thinking about it as a business transaction. And I spoke about this previously. When you're going to sell your property, you need to detach from what you think your property is and looks like and value, and go in thinking, what does a buyer want so I can get the most amount of return? It's the same with the rental. What does a tenant want so I can get the most return? Not what do you like? Oh, but I really like a red glass splashback. I did that in one of my properties years ago. But the majority of people are really loving the latest herringbone feature tile, which then makes them feel like they've got wow property and they can tell their friends and show their friends and have big barbecues and blah, 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 blah. Now we're talking a tenant who's willing to pay more money because they want the extravagance of an amazing property. So you need to understand your rent now, your asset value now, your potential rent, your potential asset value, your tenant now, who your tenant could be, the different in the demographics. So you can understand what sort of money you should be putting in. But before you renovate, work out the best time in your timeline to do the renovation. Don't just go, I've got a plan. Let's just tell the tenant we're going to be in there renovating for a week. And then you have a tenant going, hey, love that you did the renovation, but we couldn't use our bathroom for a week. That was an inconvenience. We want a rent reduction. And then when the work's finished, you're hoping they're going to spend more money on your rent. Probably not. Plus, they're a different type of tenant. They're a different demographic. So a different demographic means that they may not be the type of tenant that will look after a better property. Like, let's get real. You're on different scales. There's different scales. There's different demographics of different people. So you might have a single mum or a single dad or a small family or a young couple who are on a capped income. They can't afford to spend more money. So they're willing to only spend $500 a week. Then when you go and uplift it, the PM's saying, well, you could probably get $700 now. And then you'll walk into your young couple saying, hey, can you guys spend extra $200 a week? Because I've just invested 20 grand. So now I want to make sure I'm making my money off it. Doesn't quite work like that. And then you go to the other side and you go, okay, well, what type of tenant we can attract? Well, now maybe you're going to get a professional couple that's on big dollars. Maybe you're going to get a young family with young kids. Maybe you're going to get a business owner who owns property but just wants to rent in this area for a period of time, or doesn't want to buy here, just wants to have his portfolio running over there but wants to live in the area that he wants. So he's willing to pay more because he wants the extravagant house. He wants the wow factor. He wants everything to be modern. He wants everything, she wants everything to be sound, contemporary, functioning, new. They don't want an old property. So how do you work out then when you should renovate and what work you should do? You need to understand how much rent you can possibly get. When you start understanding how much rent you can get, then you know how much your investment should be. Then you can determine, well, the tenant's in there for another year. Don't go and try and renovate when the tenant's there. Let's arrange when we're going to get the tenant out. So in 6 months' time, the lease is coming up. Let's give them plenty of notice. Let's get the plans done now. Let's work out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, what's the best layout, what are the costings. So let's go through our process. Let's know exactly what the renovation is going to look like. And then we know, okay, we need to invest 50 grand. We've now got time to get our finance in order, top it up on our loan so we can make sure we're getting the most return. We're not going to use our savings. So we've got that, and I'm not a financial planner, but just telling you what a lot of my clients and what I do myself. So you've now got everything ready. Then you have plenty of time to give the tenant notice. So at the end of their lease, they can vacate. You can smash out your renovation, get your PM to put new photos up online, beautiful new ad, make it look amazing, and attract you a better tenant. Move straight in, pay you more money, get the bank to reevaluate, see how much equity you now have, and redo the process. But now you're making a return on investment, okay? Now you can go back to your accountant, to your quantity surveyor, ask for your depreciation schedule, go back to your accountant, here's my details, how much more tax benefits can I now get? I've invested X and now I'm making more money on it. Great. More money back in your pocket. So please make sure you take time to look at the cycle, your lease cycle. If it's periodic, it's going to be 90 days notice if you're in Sydney, if you're in New South Wales. 90 days notice, to factor that in. You don't want to be designing once your tenant moves out. You don't want to be moving your tenant out and not being ready to start the reno. So the scheduling, and we'll run through this in another podcast, the scheduling is crucial as to when you should renovate and when you shouldn't. But you need a new tenant in there that's going to pay you more rent. But you need to do the right amount of works that's overall going to showcase how transformational your property is, that's going to cover off all those objections. So understand what are the current objections of your property. And if you could overcome them, how much more rent could it then be worth? Focus on that, but your tenant needs to be moved out. You need to give them plenty of notice so that you can move out. But on day one, they move out. Day two, you're demoing and you're smashing out your reno, because every week is going to cost you money. So every week we want to make sure that you're in, out, and you get more rent. In, out, and your tenant's back in. In, out, and it's straight away back on market. Okay? Make sure though that you're not going ahead on market too early, that you haven't got the photos finished. So the photos are looking like the place is half done. Don't do that. Have them looking amazing. Get them properly done. Get even staging furniture. You just get it staged. It's like even a couple $100. Online to digitally, they've put the furniture in, and then it's more attractive. Then people can visualize things. Then you get more tenants coming in. Then you get better offers. Then you pick and select the tenant you want. Then they move in and you start making more money. And so if you've just spent 30, 40, 50 grand, but now your rent has gone up to $200 more a week, you're now getting a return on investment. You now have more to claim. You now have more benefits. And you can go straight back to the bank and do a bank evaluation and see how much your property is now worth. So please, can't stress this enough. Plan what's your rent now, what's your asset value now. What could your rent be? What could your asset value be? What's the gap? Set yourself a budget that's at least a 2-to-1 to that gap. Determine what your property needs. So what are those objections? What are those things that tenants are complaining about? What are those things that your property really needs to have that's going to get you more money? And then plan when in your cycle you're going to do the work. Get everything planned in advance. Follow all my structure, all my podcasts, all the workshops way in advance, so you're ready to go. You know your cost, you know your scope, you know everything. Then all you need to do is give notice. Tenant moves out, you get in, you smash it because you've already pre-booked everyone. You make your return, new tenant comes back in. Happy days. Guys, I hope that this one is a bit of a short one, but I hope that gives you a really good kind of understanding as to the best time to do your renovation when it's a rental property. Please don't just throw your tenants in and then decide down the track, oh, let's renovate. And then you're trying to do it around tenants, which is a hazard. You're trying to do it around tenants and then you're not getting any extra income. So plan it right and do it when you know they can vacate, so you can get a new tenant who's going to look after it, who's going to appreciate the work you've just done and get you a better return on investment. Guys, I'm the pink tradie. Carissa before you renovate. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Share this with your friends, your family, your kids. Perfect podcast for your teenage kids to start thinking about the property journey. I've got a client who mentioned to me that he's set up a deal with his kids that if they get through tutoring and they get into a scholarship, then he'll pay them the money that their school fees would have been. He'll pay them that for them to save for a deposit for a house. And they're still, teenage kids. That is amazing. Get your kids watching these podcasts. Get them thinking about property. Get them understanding concepts of selling, profit. Get them understanding rental properties and yields and equity and what that all means. Because then you can start having a young child already at 20, 21, 22 buying their first investment property, because they've thought about it, they've educated themselves, they've built their knowledge, and they have learnt what they shouldn't do to really get the right property in the right area, maximize their return, equity uplift, bam, 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 shazam. All right, guys, like, subscribe, comment. Please let me know what else you want me to discuss with you guys. I can't wait to keep bringing this stuff to you. It excites me, and I really wanted to wear my new pink shirt here that my team bought me for Christmas. Can't wait to wear it to site too, my pink steel caps. All right, guys, love and peace to all of you. Happy renovating. And again, thank you so much today, and I can't wait to speak to you next week. Happy renovating.